So let's put this into practice. So what we're going to do is we are going to use a dance registration form as an example. We want to build a form for an 80s themed dance event. So I'm going to go and present how we can put these into action in just a moment. So I'm going to start off by asking Faye to build a registration for an 80s themed dance event. And then I'm going to give it a restriction by saying limit the form to ask 5 questions.
And before you submit, Emily, I want to point out one thing is you can always toggle, yeah, you can always toggle fade on and off by clicking on this sparky thing on the top right corner.
I'll show you how to do that now. So if you want to have, in sports, sometimes people reach out to us and they ask how you can minimize Faye if you want to have full use of your screen. So as mentioned, it's just this one here, and it can toggle it on. And then if you want to use it again, you can toggle it on. So going back to the prompt I just asked there, I can go like this. And as you can see, it's starting to work.
So one good practice to point out is when you're working with Faye, let Faye complete its task before you actually start manually making changes to whatever work you're doing. So for example, in this case, as you can see, Faye is right now running and it's creating a form. So if you go ahead and start making changes in, let's say, data field or any other text, then there might be synchronization issues between what Faye has created versus what manual edits you have made. So make sure it finishes. Now that it has finished, now you can feel free to, move around inside the builder and make changes.
Yep, it's also very important to save as you go. So I'm going to save this form before I move on to my next step. It's also good when you're making, working with Faye to give it one task at a time in individual prompts. So now that I have the form built, I'm going to say, can you this into a workflow with a notification to myself. And so as you can see, we've gone from being in the form builder to being into the workflow.
Another good practice when working with Faye is to make sure that the prompts that you're giving, these are atomic in nature. When I say atomic, they are looking to complete one single task. So for example, in our case, as you can see, we first gave it a prompt to create a form. And then once that was done, we were happy with the form created. Then we moved on to creating a workflow. If you're packaging more than one things inside a single prompt, that could be a recipe for disaster. Disaster as in the expectation of you versus what Faye creates might not match. So it's very important to give it one task at a time. That makes it easier for Faye to understand and accomplish it.
And so I'm going to save this. So now that we're in the workflow, I also want to add a Google Steps connector.
And as Emily pointed out, after every time Faye completes its actions, you as a user have to manually press on the save button. Our philosophy here is Faye is there to help you out, but not take these critical decisions as to when you want to save your form or your workflow and want the changes to persist. So whatever changes you make using Faye, they will not persist unless and until you by yourself click on the save button. This is to make sure that whatever changes have been made are the ones that you really want to persist.
And so, yeah, it's also important to note that Faye will do about like 90% of the work for you, but you have to go and confirm and make sure you have the correct authorizations. There should always be a human touch included. So yeah, now we have the workflow. We have our newly built form, we have our notification step, and we have our Google Sheets connector built in. So that's amazing stuff. But before we move on, I want to show you some of the fun stuff or the things that maybe you didn't know that Faye could do. So I'm going to go back into, I almost forgot to save my own form. So I am going to go into my newly created form again.
Oh, Emily, you can ask Faye to open that form for you. Just mention the form ID. Oh, we are here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. What you can do is before you go into that, you can just copy the form ID and you can ask Faye to do that as well. It's another option, or you can go here. So I have it here. So what we're going to do is we are going to see how Faye can create a theme.
So using this capability of Faye, you can quickly create a theme for your form. It could be based off your company colors, your brand colors. You can also attach a file that contains the colors or even the logo of your company slash organization, and Faye will be able to create a theme out of it. So let's see it in action. Can you create a custom theme for form ID, it is theme, bold, flashy colors? Another thing to note with creating a theme is you always need to have a base form on which it can create a theme. So next time you want to create a theme, best practice would be to open a form or mention to Faye that, hey, open this form with ID XYZ and create a theme for it with whatever instruction you want to give it. For example, in this case, we had the form open, it automatically understood along with the form ID that, okay, I need to create a theme which will be applied to this particular form.
Yes, and when you're building the theme, quite often it will start with the colors. And if you're happy with it, you can say yes, and then it can move on to the typography. So as you can see, it's now added this neon pink kind of theme. While that's working, I just want to mention, so when you have had Faye create this, you want to make sure that you click theme, save on the theme, and then you also need to save it onto the form itself. I'm going to click save theme, save it onto the form itself. And just like that, you have should have created a theme. There we go. And save.